Adrianna Ramirez from Connecticut Family Support Network. I am joined by Beth Reel from Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center. Sorry, my brain. And
Okay.
from several of our friends at Department of Developmental Services, EDS and Day Services. We're excited to have you join us and come learn. We're going to start with a little housekeeping. Um, so if Eleanor, you can come into the main room as well. So everyone, you can help translate the directions that we're going to say. That would be great. So we're going to start. This is being recorded, so that way everyone has an option to watch it later. We are doing this in English and Spanish, so if everyone can look on the bottom part and portion of their screen and look for a globe. If you do not see a globe, you can hit the three dots where it says more, and you will see interpretation. You will choose the language, whether English or Spanish, that you want to hear, and then mute the original sound.
Adriana, I'm sorry to interrupt. It looks as though
Yes.
your interpreter, Eleanor, was waving. I don't know if she was trying to get your attention.
Oh, sure. Let me see where is she.
I think she put in the chat that she's stuck in the Spanish room, and so she
Okay.
can't come back here to translate that. I think that's what she's
Manage
trying to
language.
say.
Okay, no worries. I will translate it. I don't want to end her. Ok, gracias a todos, bienvenidos. Vamos a hacer unas cosas. Lo primero es, esto va a estar presentado en inglés y español. Para escuchar la presentación en español, lo que vamos a hacer es vamos a mirar la pantalla abajo, vas a ver un globo, lo vas a seleccionar, ese es para escoger el idioma que quieras. Lo que vas a escoger es escuchar en español y vas a chequear el mute, el audio original, para que solo escuchas en español. También lo que vamos a hacer es, vamos a dejar nuestros micrófonos apagados. Vamos a tener la presentación primero y luego lo que vamos a hacer es al último vamos a tener un tiempo para preguntas. Si tienes una pregunta que tienes y no se quiere olvidar, puedes ponerlo, escribirlo en el chat y al último vamos a tener tiempo para escuchar preguntas. So again, we're going to look at the bottom of the screen. We're going to look for a globe. We're going to select our language. We are going to keep our microphones off. We're going to do the presentation, and then we're going to have a section for Q&A. If you have questions that you don't want to forget, feel free to put it in the chat, and then we will be doing questions at the end. Again, this is being recorded, so we're trying to record the presentation first, and then we will do Q&A afterwards. Okay. So if everybody's ready, I'm excited to introduce Kate and Daryl, the primary two people that we've been working with on this presentation for bringing us all together. And I also want to thank DDS for providing the simultaneous Spanish interpretation because we're really excited for our community as our community, which I know Beth will agree is always asking for information in multiple languages beyond Spanish. So this is a great opportunity to be able to learn and hear this presentation in English and Spanish. And I'm going to share my screen as Kate and Daryl introduce themselves plus their team. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Employment and Day Services team, I'd like to welcome you to the informational session titled, You're 22, Now What? I am joined by Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center and Connecticut Family Support Network. Questions will be answered at the end. Additionally, we have prepared to answer the questions from the registration throughout the PowerPoint. We will begin with introductions. I'd like to introduce our Division Director of Family Support Strategies, Carrie Fleck, followed by our Director of Employment and Day Services, Amber Carter.
Thanks, Daryl. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm really excited to be here. The employment team does a fantastic job, and I learn something new every single time they present and just really impressed with the work that they've done on this. I'm happy to be here. Amber.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. And as well, thank you, Daryl and Kate, and to Adriana and everyone else who helped to bring this together. Really excited and just so proud of the work that has gone on in the background to see today come into fruition. As Daryl mentioned earlier, my name is Amber Carter. I am the Director of Employment and Day Services at DDS. And we are just excited to see what tonight's presentation will yield and also present opportunities in the future for a continued conversation. So I just want to thank all of you and everyone who really have been behind the scenes doing all the work. I want to thank all of our interpreters as well, and just really excited to be here amongst all of you this evening to talk about some of the services and supports that DDS has to offer and to bring this to you in Spanish and in English. So thank you very much to everyone. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Amber. My name is Daryl Spears Jr., and I am an education specialist in the Employment and Day Unit. I will pass it to my colleague, Kate DiStefano.
Thanks, Daryl. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate DiStefano. I'm from the DDS Employment and Day Services Unit. Today, we will be sharing an overview of important planning considerations and DDS services available after age 22. While we won't be able to cover every topic in depth, our goal is to provide you with helpful resources and connections so you can move forward confidently in this process. We also encourage you to continue these conversations with transition advisors, case managers, and other DDS staff who can help address your specific questions and concerns. So we're going to start off, we have an agenda on the next slide. And you'll kind of see what's going to be covered here. But before we get started, I just want to ask a question just to gauge some understanding. So what is the Department of Developmental Services, DDS? Before we dive in, how many of you feel like you already have a good understanding of DDS and who we support? If you do, go ahead and give us a thumbs up using the reactions tab on your screen. Oh, wow. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. This is great.
Several thumbs up.
All right. Okay. All right. So I will do just a quick overview of the department. DDS provides services and supports for individuals with intellectual disability. To be eligible for supports and services from DDS, a person must be a resident of Connecticut and have an intellectual disability or a medical diagnosis of Prader-Willi syndrome. Intellectual disability is defined as a significant limitation in intellectual functioning and deficits in adaptive behavior that originated during the developmental period prior to age 18. We'll share the eligibility fact sheet in the chat for anyone who would like more details on the eligibility criteria. I just want to say, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The interpreter asked if you would go a little slower.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'm going to try. Sorry. I just want to mention the Autism Spectrum Disorder Program because this comes up a lot, and I noticed it in some of the questions that we received ahead of time. So people who have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder but do not have intellectual disability may be eligible for services from the Autism Spectrum Disorder Program through the Department of Social Services. We will add links in the chat for more information about that program, including contact information. So we've made a list of all the links in this presentation, and we will share that list in a Word document, and we'll send it to Adrianna, and so she can get that out to everyone along with the presentation afterward. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see the pie here. So DDS includes a wide range of services and divisions, and these are just a few examples. Today, we will be focusing primarily on employment and day services. So on the next slide, This is post-22 planning. So we've outlined 6 important steps to guide you through this process. This isn't everything, but these are probably some of the top things that you need to be aware of. So step 1, confirm DDS eligibility. You must be determined eligible for DDS in order to access services and supports after age 22. If you have not yet applied, we will place the application link in the chat. Step 2, confirm active Connecticut Medicaid, specifically Husky C. Husky C must be obtained and maintained in order to receive any available DDS funding. You can apply through the Department of Social Services. Step 3, connect with DDS. If you are eligible and already have a DDS case manager, reach out to them directly. If a case manager has not yet been assigned, you can contact the DDS helpline for assistance. Okay, the next slide, Adrianna. Okay, so step 4, explore DDS employment and day services. Daryl will review these options in more detail in just a few minutes. Step 5, review service delivery options. Services can be delivered either through a DDS qualified provider agency or through a self-directed approach. And we will discuss this in a little more detail later on. Step 6, consider transportation options. Think about how you will travel to and from work or day program. Now I'll turn it over to Daryl, who will lead us into a review of Employment First and DDS Employment and Day Services.
Thank you, Kate. In September 2024, the department revised its Employment First policy. You can read more about this by visiting the policy linked on the slide. Employment First ensures that individuals who express an interest in pursuing employment receive the support they need from DDS to make that goal a reality. It does not force or mandate individuals to be employed. Our commitment is to provide the necessary resources and assistance for individuals to explore and secure integrated, community-based employment opportunities. While not every individual will voice employment as a goal, Employment First guarantees that employment is considered as a viable option for everyone, regardless of their level of need. Next slide, please. WIOA is a federal act that defines competitive integrated employment, also known as CIE, as work that is performed full-time or part-time. CIE is paid at minimum wage or more and offers the same level of benefits as employees without disabilities in similar positions. CIE includes working in a setting with staff with and without disabilities and provides opportunity for advancement. When talking about employment, it is important individuals look into benefits counseling, as employment does play a part in an individual's benefits. The Employment and Day Services team created a document called Got Work that lists what to keep in mind when becoming employed. You can find this document on the Employment and Day webpage under the Employment Resources tab. Next slide. We have 3 categories of services in Employment and Day Services. First is employment services. Employment services can assist an individual with finding and applying for jobs. Employment services support Employment services support individuals in competitive work settings, also known as on-the-job supports. This support can include job coaching, which happens once an individual is hired. We have pre-employment services that support exploring different careers, preparation, and training that all helps lead someone to competitive integrated employment. We have day services that support gaining, improving, and retention of skills and abilities that help prepare individuals for work or community participation. Next slide. I will now provide some examples of each of the types of supports mentioned in the last slide. In employment supports, individualized supported employment can be an individual working one-to-one with a staff on a resume or job interview skills and on-the-job support. Self-employment supports help an individual with their own business. We recently started microenterprise startup funds to help individuals start up a business idea. Customized employment is a service where a trained staff will learn as much as they can about an individual. They connect with an employer and carve out a position that fits the individual and benefits the employer. Group supported employment is a service where individuals work in a group setting with a job coach leading the group. For pre-employment, we have employment transition services that help build skills and self-advocacy. We also have Project Search, a 9-month internship program where interns try out 3 different areas at a job site and gain skills to help them get hired. In our day service options, we have our regular day support options and our new services under day, Employment Enrichment Service, also known as EES, which is for individuals who have employment. Individuals in this service can work on skills upkeep and career advancement. The second is Employment Exploration Option, also known as EEO. This service gives individuals an introduction to the employment world. Both services include time in the community. Additionally, we have individual day services that help individuals on a one-to-one basis meet their goals. And lastly, senior supports, which is a retirement service for individuals 60 and over to help with isolation and keeping busy. Individuals may be in one or more of these services at the same time, and it is dependent on the needs and the goals of the individual. Resources on these supports can be found on the resource slide at the end of this presentation, and you can also find links to these resources in the chat. Next slide. I will now pass it to Kate.
Thanks, Daryl. On this slide, we're talking about how to choose how you want your supports and services to be managed. We sometimes refer to this as service delivery. And you can use your funding to purchase supports in different ways. You can use a DDS qualified provider agency. You can use self-direction. You can use agency with choice. You can also use a combination of approaches depending on what best meets your individual needs. So just like Daryl mentioned, sometimes people are using a combination of services. Maybe someone's doing, employment transition services a couple days a week, and then maybe they're doing some individualized service 2 days a week. Maybe for that individualized service, you would choose self-direction. But for the employment transition service, you might choose a provider agency. So that's just an example of how you can be creative with services and service delivery. If you choose to self-direct, it means that you take a primary role in designing and directing your supports. In this model, you may serve as the employer of record, which means you identify, hire, and manage your own staff. A fiscal intermediary, which currently is GT Independence, handles important responsibilities such as payroll and taxes. Individuals who are DDS eligible have access to a free subscription to rewarding work. This is an online resource where you can search for and connect with potential staff. You might be familiar with something like care.com. It's kind of similar to that. Agency of choice means the provider agency agrees to hire the individual you choose. That person becomes an employer of the provider agency, and the agency will assist you with training and managing your staff. I should tell you that agency with choice is not very common. Currently, only 5 providers offer this option statewide. For more information about the service delivery options, we have quite a few links on this slide, and I know that Trevor will also be putting those in the chat. Next slide, please. So portability, I always like to mention portability because I remember parents sometimes saying, well, if I choose this provider or if I choose this service, am I stuck with it? And the answer is no. Portability is simply a way of saying that you have control over the supports and services you receive. Sometimes things have to change, and that's when you can exercise the portability process. You may not be satisfied with a service, or you may need to change who provides the service for some reason. We always like to make you aware that that is an option. Next slide, please. I think this is an important slide because a lot of the questions that came in with registration had to do with how do I find a provider in my area? How do I provide a provider that offers a particular service? So this is the link to the Find a Provider webpage on our website. There are several ways to search. So you'll see that you can search by profile, which means a provider's specific profile, by the town, by a service category. Maybe you're looking for providers that only offer customized employment. So you can look by that category. Or you can browse the full list. There's also an option to sort the Excel version of the list. So that creates a much smaller list of all the providers that you want to look at, including their services. So I also want to mention that each qualified provider chooses which services and supports they offer. So you're going to notice that not all providers offer the same options. And to become a qualified provider, agencies must meet the standards outlined in the DDS Home and Community-Based Services Waiver. On the next slide, this is an example of a provider profile. So when I said you can search by profile, this is a specific profile. I didn't name the provider here. But when you look at the profile, you will see that this provider is qualified to provide the following services in each of these categories. So if we look at this profile and we're just looking at supports in a day program, you'll see that this provider has quite a few of those boxes checked off. Okay, so the provider offers all the services that are checked. So in the case of supports in a day program, we see customized employment, we see group day services, they offer EES and EEO, we see group supported employment, and more. So this is a good snapshot of how you can learn what a specific provider is qualified to provide. Next slide. Okay, so this slide is about next steps. So we invited Caitlin Drenzik. She is a DDS transition advisor in the West region to discuss some of the next steps if you are currently attending a school transition program and you're between the ages of 18 and 22. So I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin for this slide.
Thanks, Kate. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Hi, everyone. As Kate said, I'm Caitlin Drunzik. I am one of the transition advisors in the West region. There are 6 of us in each region, and I saw some pretty familiar faces on here, so I'm glad everyone was able to join tonight, and thank you for having me as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about transition planning and for individuals who are of transition age. So I'll go through each step in a little bit more detail. For those who have not applied to DDS yet, that really is going to be the first step. One thing that's very important to consider is that any testing that will be needed for DDS eligibility, such as cognitive testing that shows a full-scale IQ and adaptive testing, has to have been completed before an individual turns 18 years old. I do want to point out that an individual can still apply for DDS after being 18 years old, but the testing must have been from before they were 18. So this is something that's very crucial. So that's going to be your immediate step. After that, one of the things that we start thinking about is transition planning. And as a transition advisor, we're working with DDS eligible individuals starting as young as 16 years old. So we really encourage individuals and their families to start planning early. That's really important so that that way we have time to get to know an individual and really help them to create an individualized plan as far as their transition from out of school into adulthood. So some of the next steps listed here are pulled actually from our transition timeline, which is a really helpful document that we use and share with individuals and families to kind of guide them step by step what they should be working on throughout their transition years. So you'll see here, the first step listed is applying for SSI, which is Supplemental Security Income through the Social Security Administration. And you can do that a few ways. A lot of people do it online, but you're also able to call in to the phone number or make an appointment with your local Social Security office to do that. And I do want to stress that that application should be submitted after an individual turns 18 years old. After that, the most seamless way to apply for Husky C next would be to be found eligible for SSI first. So that's another important takeaway is applying for SSI, and then after that determination comes back, applying for Husky C, which is also Connecticut Medicaid. This is extremely important in the world of adult services through DDS because in order to be able to access any of the services that were just mentioned previously, individuals need to have Husky C. And in addition to that, they will need Husky C in order to be able to be assigned a DDS case manager, which ideally happens about 6 months prior to their exit from school. However, that is based on regional resources that are available, which really just means that the case managers in your area have the availability on their caseload to bring on new individuals. And when I say that ideally that happens during the final year of school, I also want to stress that's that last year of school an individual is eligible for their transition program. So now in Connecticut, individuals are eligible to remain in a transition program through their school district until the end of the school year they turn 22 years old. So if someone did decide to exit school prior to that, that doesn't speed up the timeline for being able to access these adult services. And I do like to stress that just to make sure that those are aware. And after that, or before that, I would say, as I started to mention before, is once an individual is DDS eligible, connect with the transition advisor. We do have a list of the TAs assigned to which districts statewide, so depending on where you're living, depends on who you will connect with. If anyone has any questions about who the transition advisor is for their district, I'm always happy to help you connect with them. And as I said, planning earlier is best. So if an individual is eligible for DDS, start the conversation with us. We'd be happy to plan with you, attend PPTs for DDS eligible individuals, and really help to get this process started.
Thanks, Caitlin. That was super helpful. It's really important information. And I know just the transition advisors are so active in the districts and available to families to really support with those steps. So thank you. The next slide has to do with have you exited school? So Caitlin's slide was about transition age youth. Now we're talking about, are you age 22 or older? What are your next steps? Well, I did outline, 6 things to consider in the beginning. But just to reiterate, make sure that you have DDS eligibility. Sometimes we have emails or phone calls from families and they don't know if they applied. They don't remember if they applied. So we always connect them with eligibility to see if, in fact, they did apply and the individual became eligible and they just forgot about it. So always confirm and make sure. And if not eligible, then go through the application process. And again, confirm active Connecticut Medicaid Husky C. This is important because Husky C essentially is the billing mechanism for that DDS funding post 22. And then connect with the DDS case manager or the regional helpline staff if a case manager has not yet been assigned. So I will turn it back over to Daryl.
Thank you, Kate. On the screen is a screenshot of our Employment and Day Services resource list. This list has several of our resources and documents to help learn about our supports and how to access them. This will be in the presentation and it is linked for those to click and be able to see. And at this time, we will transition into the next part of our presentation in which we have some of our colleagues and some of our partnerships on to share who they are and their supports. We first will start with our OBUDS person, Shannon Giacovino.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Giacovino, and I'm the Buds person for DDS. I am an independent office. I'm appointed by the governor. I don't work for DDS, but I work with DDS, and I'm here specifically to be a resource to individuals and families the department serves, to be an advocate when necessary. And so people call me for a lot of reasons, but mainly, I listen, I take complaints, I hear what people's concerns are, and then, I work with them to develop a plan to deal with that with the department. I explain how DDS policies and procedures affect the outcome of people's concerns. I provide options for resolving problems and concerns with DDS. I mediate fair and equitable solutions to problems. My job is to be impartial, so the goal is always to try to find a resolution that works best for the individual and something that everyone can agree on. I advise resolution within DDS policies and regulations, and I recommend changes in DDS policies and procedures when appropriate. So if I notice that there are problems with that people are encountering, then my job, in addition to helping people directly, is to work with DDS to try to make changes so that things work better for the department's people the department serves. That's it.
Thank you very much, Shannon. We will move on to the next slide, and I'd like to introduce Beth Rill from Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening. I'm really grateful for the collaboration and everybody taking the time out of their busy schedules this evening to be here. So I'm just going to put a link to a bunch of information about our services in the chat before I get started. So for those of you who have not heard of the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center before, we are what's called a federally funded parent training and information center, also known as PTI. So if you are familiar with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that federal law that oversees special education, and you are really excited about reading the law, if you flip way to the back or scroll way to the back of that law, you will actually find parent training and information centers in the law. So we are that center for Connecticut. So we're federally funded. We also receive funding from the Connecticut State Department of Education, Bureau of Special Education, the Office of Early Childhood. We're part of the Family and School Partnership Grant, and we receive some smaller grant funding and contract funding through the Down Syndrome Association of Connecticut and the Department of Aging and Disability Services, Bureau of Rehabilitation Services. So we are a statewide nonprofit organization. We offer information and support to families, students and youth, and professionals related to special education. We support families with children from birth to 26 years old. And we,
Megan.
oh, that was just a mistake, I think.
Megan.
We support families through a tiered levels of support. And so our first tier is information that people can access easily through our website. And you'll see there's a QR code on the slide that goes to our link tree. It contains all kinds of information, including where to find us on social media, links to important documents for families, and our YouTube channel where we record and store most of our trainings that we provide. Many of them are in English and Spanish. And then we also have in-person outreach events that we attend throughout the state to share information about our organization. Our second level of support is our call center. So people can call, email, and make appointments to come in person to talk about their individual situation. So as we all know, special education is very individualized and every situation is different. So it's really important when offering suggestions that people know how the law applies to their very specific situation. So one of the challenges that we see is there's a lot out there on social media that's offered to families that may or may not apply to their situation. So we encourage people to work with one of our call center staff. All of our program staff are either parents of children with disabilities or people with lived experience themselves. And so the beauty of that is we sit in the meetings. Many of us have experienced the transitions that we're talking about here. So student transitioning from school out into the adult world. I'm the parent of a 32-year-old myself who receives special education services. And our staff is highly trained in special education law and the regulations in Connecticut that support students with disabilities as they're being educated in schools. We do a lot of training opportunities. So, partnerships like this are super valuable. We put that information on our trainings, anything from birth to 3 information to transition to adult life information and everything in between. We do like to train parent leaders. So we have a Next Steps Parent Leadership training program. I am talking really fast. I'm going to slow myself down. That I know many people on this call have been involved in. So we believe in parents as advocates and parents as leaders in the community. And then our tier 3 support is more intensive support, that's where there are very limited circumstances where we will go to a PPT meeting with a family. And that higher level of support is based on need. There's a specific criteria that people would meet around barriers to participation in their child's program. And that is a program that's unfortunately, very limited because we don't have the capacity to serve everyone. So we end up with sometimes people waiting a little bit, or some referrals are made. And then one of my favorite things, near and dear to my heart, is we have a Connecticut Secondary Transition Youth Advisory Board. And so this is where youth and young adults with lived experience come together once a month, second Tuesday of the month. They meet via Zoom, or students can participate in a lot of different ways. They don't have to attend the Zoom meeting. But this was created because in Connecticut, we do an awful lot of planning for youth with disabilities without youth with disabilities at the table. And so we believe that having youth have a voice, nothing about them without them, and that they know their experiences and they know what life is like as a person, as a young person in high school, or a transition program transitioning out. So, so that's why the Youth Advisory Board was created, to offer information and support to the community. So many of them sit on state advisory councils and different places where they can have their voice heard at the planning tables. I will stop there, and I think we're going to open it up to questions at the end. So I'll hand it over to Adrianna Ramirez from CTFSN.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, everyone. We're so excited to, as Beth said, this collaboration. So for those of you that this is the first time you're connecting with Connecticut Family Support Network, also known as CTFSN, we just wanted to share a little bit about us. We are a statewide nonprofit organization supporting all 169 towns in Connecticut. And we focus on supporting the parent caregiver of the family as they are supporting their student adult family member. And we do this in a number of ways. We have family support coordinators in each region. And those family support coordinators are also themselves parents, caregivers, family members with that lived expertise to be able to connect with community on that one-to-one support basis, knowing, understanding, having that lived experience, whether they're currently raising a young child or an older adult child living at home with them or supporting them. As I say, older adult family member, we support across the lifespan. So we can talk to parents that have family members that are 50, 55, and sometimes they are siblings that are supporting their siblings through different transitions in life, and also could be a family that just received a diagnosis to be able to connect. As you see, that second line says you are not alone. We know that this journey can be very isolating, can be very confusing, can be very overwhelming. So we are here as that support net to be able to connect with and give you that firsthand support and guidance, along with holding different workshops and trainings as we are today in collaboration with other organizations to be able to provide education on different topics that are currently relevant, based on topics that this year, depending on what's going on in the world, and we hear from you and we ask you, what is it that you're being challenged with or wanting to know more about? And those are the trainings that we will offer as well. The other way we do a lot of support is through our support groups. And that is when we can get parent to parents together with our family support coordinators. And this creates a sense of community, a sense of resource sharing, because all of us are always learning. The world is always changing. And as parents and caregivers, we are great researchers. So we don't know everything. We learn together. So this is a community to be able to be in a space and get support without having to explain a certain situation. I love when parents come into a support group and they talk about a specific situation, and you'll have one or two parents raise their hands and say, I remember when that happened to me, and be able to support versus that parent trying to explain what they mean. So really helping to create space for that support and that not feeling alone. The other way we do support is through collaboration, bringing not only the trainings that we do ourselves through the topics that we are trained in, but also bringing in topics and professionals throughout the state, including CPAC, including DDS, including local organizations or providers, to be able to bring information that either will help you as a caregiver with your self-care, with your support, because we know that you are helping your family member and you're trying to juggle everything and trying to learn all the alphabet soup that we deal with. But who is supporting you? What support are you getting to make sure that everything continues to work? So those are the areas that we focus in. And then one of the other areas that we do is we do play groups in the summer. They're called like playgroup socialization time. And there is no age cap. So anyone at any age can join us with their caregivers. And it's an opportunity to socialize and get to know each other. And sometimes you may not talk the first time you're playing, running around, but just like anything else, when you kind of go to your favorite coffee shop or bakery, if you go often enough, you get to know someone's name or someone is familiar. And it's trying to create that sense of community and space where if your child goes running, most likely two or three other people will go running with you to get them. And lastly, one of the ways that we support and bring community together is our annual One Voice Conference. This is an in-person conference and it's happening on April 30th in North Haven. And this is a great opportunity for parents and caregivers to get together, self-advocates, professionals, and really create that sense of community, because we're all in this together, supporting each other and supporting our family members, whether they're in school, in adult services, and really coming together as a community to be able to learn together, support each other, and get to know each other as well. And lastly, everything we offer is free, and it is offered in English and Spanish currently. So we are very excited to continue these collaborations. We're going to be moving to Q&A.
Adrianna, really quick before we
Yes.
start the Q&A,
Mhm.
I know that the Q&A will take us to the end. So I just wanted to express my appreciation to the planning committee or group that helped put this together. That would obviously be yourself, Beth Reel, Shannon Giacovino, Kate DiStefano, and then also our DEI director, Dr. Cheryl Ellis. So I just wanted to express my gratitude in putting this together. We worked very hard for several months, and I thank you all for your contribution.